Okay, good morning. We're going to continue in Masechet Sanhedrin. We are on Daf Tzadik Tat Amud Aleph 99A2 in the art scroll. Tana Idach. Tana Idach Eliezer Omer Yemot HaMashiach Arboim Shana. Eliezer says that when Mashiach comes, the period of Mashiach will be for 40 years. How does Rabbi Eliezer know this? K'tiv Hacha. It says about the Dor HaMidbar, the generation that lives in the wilderness. Right, he afflicted you and let you go hungry, and he fed you the manna. Uchtiv hadam, and it's written elsewhere in Tehillim. Samichenu kimot initanu shenot ra'inu ra'a. Hashem will gladden us like the days of the affliction. So how many days were the affliction? It says that he afflicted us in the midbar for 40 years. So too, the period of Mashiach will be 40 years. Rabbi Dosa says, Arba me'ot shana, 400 years. How do we know the K'tiv Hacha? It says over here, by Abraham Avinu, v'avadum ve'inu otam arba me'ot shana. They're going to give, the Jews are going to be in Mitzrayim as slaves for 400 years. They're going to be afflicted for 400. And then we saw already in the Tehillim, it says, Samihenu kimot initanu. So the same days of affliction, the same days you'll have the Mashiach. And how many years is that? It says 400 years that they're going to be in Mitzrayim as slaves. So 400 years is the period of slavery. 400 years will be the period of Mashiach. So really, they're both learning from the same pasuk. And just which period of affliction are we talking about? According to Eliezer, the affliction in the Midbar, which is 40 years, and according to Ridosa, the affliction in Mitzrayim, which is 400 years. Okay, so we're 99A2. Rabbi says, how much is the years of Mashiach? Shilosh me'ot v'shishim v'chamesh shana. 365 years. Kiminyan yemot ha'hama. Like the days of the year, right? The days of the solar year. Kiminyan yemot ha'hama. Right? Remember, a lunar year is not a real year. It's just 12 months of the moon. An actual year is the sun's rotation, right? Now, where are we getting this? Why would there be 365 years comparing to the 365 days? Because it says, Kiyom naqam belibi. It's stated, for the day of vengeance is in my heart, Ushnad alai ba'ah. And the year of my people's redemption is come. So it says Yom, and it then says Shana in the same pasuk, the day and the year. So we learn that Yom Lishana, a day for a year. So just the way it says that the 365 days, so therefore will be 365 years. This is comparable to the sin of the Meraglim, the spies, right? They were there in the Midbar they were in the Eretz Canaan spying for 40 days, and they said Lashon Hara. So they got punished Yom Lishana. Every day they were there, they got punished. They had to be in the Midbar for 40 years, for 40 days. So similar to here, Yom Naqam B'Libi Ushnad Yolai Ba'am is a day for a year. Rashi, in his second opinion, he says it's not just 365 years, it's 365,000 years. You can take a look at note 23 in the article 9982. And it explains as above, the day of God equals 1,000 years. One day of God is 1,000 years. So if you're saying the Yemot Mashiach will be Keneged Hol Hashana, which is 365 days, well, each day of Hashem is 1,000 years. So it's going to be 365,000 years will be the time of the period of Mashiach, which is a lot more. Okay, my Yom Nakam Bilibi. What does it supposed to mean? Hashem said, "The day of vengeance is in my heart." Amar Yohanan Lilibi Giliti Le'evarai Lo Giliti. Hashem saying, "I revealed it to my heart, but I didn't reveal it to my limbs." So Hashem didn't speak it out loud, so to speak. Just knows it inside. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish Amar Lilibi Giliti Lemachei Asher Lo Giliti. I told it to my heart, but I didn't tell it to the Malachim. Okay, so what's going on over here is that the Vilna Gaon in one place wants to say that Bilibi is the Torah. Torah Shebiktav, and Hashem in a code put when the Mashiach will come. And the Evarai is the Torah Shebal Peh. That's the oral Torah, which the Chachamim explain and elaborate. And to that, Hashem didn't let them reveal when the sof will be. Others want to explain. They're going another place explains that the heart symbolizes Moshe and the Avot, and the other Nevi'im are the Evarai, and Hashem didn't reveal it to them. We do know that Yaakov Avinu knew when the Ketz was. We do know that Daniel knew when the Ketz was. Anyway, the idea here is that there is a Ketz, and it is hidden, and not everybody knows. And even those who knows cannot share it. Okay? Then it says on 99a3, Taneh Avimi Bered Rebi Abahu. Yemot Mashiach Israel, Shiv'at Alafim Shana. The Mashiach will last 7,000 years. So when Mashiach comes, until the period of Olam Haba, it's going to be a period of 7,000 years. Now, how do we know this? Shneeman, Umsos Hatan al Kala, Ken Yasis Alayich Hashem Elokayich. Just like a Hatan celebrates with his Kala, so too will celebrate with Hashem. Now, how many days is the Hatan's celebration with the Kala? 7 days. Shabbat for 7 days. So too, we'll have 7 days of celebration with Hashem. But remember, each day of Hashem is 1,000 years. So therefore, it's going to be 7,000 years. Now, all these opinions do not go with Rav Katina. Take a look at note 26. Rav Katina, who said the world will last 6,000 years, including the time of Mashiach. Right? It goes up to 6,000, including the time of Mashiach. So this opinion that it'll be 7,000 years, and the opinion previously, where Rashi said 365,000 years, obviously they're not in conjunction with Rav Katina's position about the world being 6,000 years. Amar Yehuda Amar Shmuel, Yemot Mashiach Kimiyom Shnevra Olam Ved Achshav. Yehuda said, you know how long Mashiach period is going to be? From when the world was created until today, meaning until the day Mashiach comes. Okay? Shneemar, because it says, Kimei Hashemayim ala Aretz, the day like the days of the heaven on the earth. So like the days of the heaven there, just like the days of the creation of the world until Yemot Mashiach, that's how much days are going to be for Mashiach until the next period on Olam Haba. So Rabbi Nachman bar Yitzchak slightly argues, and he says not from Adam Harishon, not from when the world was created, but rather Kimei Noah ad Hashem, from the time of Noah after the Mabul until now. Shneema Kimei Noah Zotli Asher Nishbati. And you read Kimei as Kimei, like the days. Take a look at note 30 on the third paragraph. Note 30, Shmuel and Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak agree that since the Messianic era is in a world in its own right, it should endure for as long as the world, as the world was. Shmuel reckons the duration from the creation, whereas Rav Nachman reckons it from the flood, when the world was renewed. We know that when the flood after the Mabul, there were certain changes in the world according to the Midrashim. Right? One Midrash says all the continents used to be all together. And then after the Mabul, the continents were split into the way we have them today. Another Midrash, that it was always springtime before the Mabul. And after the Mabul, you have all these weather phenomena of cold, hot, and such. So Rav Nachman is saying, yeah, the world is really counted today from after the Mabul. Therefore, Mashiach will be from the period of after the Mabul till whenever it comes. That's how many years are going to be Mashiach. Well, Rabbi Yehuda says, no, the creation is the creation. You start from the day number one. So as many years that it is, that's how many years there will be a Mashiach, period. Okay. Amar Rabbi Hiya Baraba, Amar Rabbi Yohanan. Kol Nevi'im, Kulan lo nitnabe'u ela lemot HaMashiach. All of the Nevi'im, whatever they prophesize about all the miracles, such as the wolf laying with the lamb, no more wars, and all these different things, this is all about Yemot HaMashiach. Aval Olam Haba, but for the period after Yemot HaMashiach, which is known as the Olam Haba, Ayin lo ra'ata Elohim zu atechai yaseh lemachakeh lo. No one except your eyes, O God, has seen. Okay, nobody except Hashem knows. Meaning all the Nevi'im, all the promises that they make, everything that sounds so good, that is all Yemot HaMashiach. Okay, And now the Gemara says, "Upliga the Shmuel," and Shmuel argues. The Amar Shmuel says, "Em ba'olam hazeh imota Mashiach el shibut ma'chayut mileh." There's no difference between this world and the Messianic era, except for the dominion of foreign kingdom. Okay, that means the only thing is that the government of the world and the people of the world are not going to bother the Jews anymore, and the Jews are going to have their own state and they're able to do their own thing, and there's no one going to tell them what to do, and everyone's going to be subordinate to the Jews. So someone in the shul said, "But we have Midyan Israel. We have Midyan Israel, but we don't really have Midyan Israel because Israel is very limited in what they can do. If they want to bomb certain parts in Iran, all of a sudden the Americans say, not here, not there, right? So they're really restricted. Yes, we have a state, so to speak, but it's not completely independent. And the truth is, it's not just that, right? It's the independence that also nobody wants to hurt us. Everyone agrees that we're doing the right thing, and they want to give a gift to us, stuff like that. That's what it means. Shibud Malchi is bilvad. And in fact, there's another understanding, is that while we're living amongst the goyim, even if we're living in our own state, but we don't have freedom from influence, right? Everywhere we are subjugated by the goyim. Even when we live in Eretz Yisrael, there are influences from the outside. People want to compare themselves to a different country. They want to be like all the countries in the world. They want to be like all the people in the world. So we're not free from this oppression of trying to be more like the other people in the world. Now, there is a huge issue here with this two opinions. Not that it's okay to have machoket for sure, yeah, Shmuel, whatever they want to say, but the issue is with the Rambam. Okay, and it's brought down in note 32. I'll just say it out loud. Is that the Rambam in two places says two different things. In Hilchas Shuvah, Rambam writes that the great prophecies of the miraculous future is all about the time of Mashiach. And Olam Haba, no one's going to understand. Exactly what Rabbi Chiya bar Abba Rabbi Yochanan said. But then in Hilchot Melachim, he says, no, he says that when Mashiach comes, everything will say exactly the same. Okay? And there's no difference between this world and the Mashiach world, except for foreign dominion. And they're not going to be on top of us. So how could the Rambam hold the both? Right? Look at the Gemara. The Gemara says Upliga the Shmuel. It means they're arguing. So how can the Rambam in one place say that Mashiach comes to be all these miracles? There's going to be bread growing from the trees. There's going to be, so to speak, there's going to be wine coming out of the grapes directly. It's going to be the wolf laying with the lamb. How could it be when he holds in Hilchos Melachim that nothing will change except Shibud Malchus Bilvad? That's it. That we're not going to have foreign influences, and going to be able to be independent Jewish state. So so they want to explain how the Rambam can hold the both shitot, and the way they explain it, the Lechem Mishnah and others, they want to explain it as follows. In fact, the Rambam himself sort of explains it. In Hilchot Melachim, he talks about the prophecies. And one of the prophecies that we mentioned was the wolf will dwell with the lamb, and the leopard will lie down with the kid. This is a prophecy in Yeshaya, talking about the end of days. This should not be interpreted to mean these animals will no longer be carnivorous, right? Rather, it's a metaphor for the fact that the warlike, aggressive nations will live in harmony with peace-loving people. The world, maintains the Rambam, will continue to operate naturally, but each will reach a utopian state of peace and harmony. Similar, all such prophecies are to be interpreted allegorically, right? They're not exactly, right? Like we say, the war of Gog and Magog doesn't have to be literal. It could be an allegorical type of war. They're saying the same thing. All these prophecies, they're promising all these different things, can also be allegorical, meaning that it's going to be a time where food's going to be plenty, and there's not going to be any war, there's not going to be any famine, everyone's going to have what they want, and everyone has what they need. It's going to be a utopian state. So that's a way to answer the Rambam, who holds of both Shittot. So really, he holds like Shmuel. And there's no difference between this world and the Mashiach world, but well, the miracles are also going to happen, not like miraculous bread growing from trees, but rather there'll be so much bread as if the bread was going from the trees. Right? That's the way they want to explain the Rambam. I'll just mention the Vilna Gaon. The Vilna Gaon understands it as being two distinct periods. He says, Rabbi Hiya's opinion, right, that he said that there's going to be all these miracles, and Shmuel's opinion are two different opinions, two different periods of time. He says, but Shmuel says that the world's influence is not going to be on the Jewish people anymore. That is Mashiach ben Yosef. Mashiach ben Yosef is going to come. We're going to have our own independence. But then there'll be the war of Gog and Magog, and Mashiach ben David will defeat them. And then, like Rabbi Hiya, all the miraculous prophecies of the future will come to be. Okay, that's what the Vilna Gaon, Imrei Noam, Michtav Me'Eliyahu, they seek to say that it's two distinct periods. Okay, and so it's not that they're arguing, but rather when it is happening. According to Shmuel, it's happening according to the Vilna Gaon and Mechtayel. First, it's happening. Foreign influence is no longer on us, and then is happening. And then is happening the miraculous events after the war Gog Magog with Mashiach ben David. Okay, now we continue. We're on 99A4. Aleph. Let's take a look. Amar B'Hiya Baraba Amar Bi Yohanan. Everything that they said about the great rewards a person will get is all talking about Balei Tshuva, about the King Gemurim. But it's Tzaddik Gomer, Ayin Lo Ra'ata Elohim Zulatecha. No one saw the righteousness. So if a tzaddik has been tzaddik all life, his reward is a lot greater than the word rewards that's mentioned in the Nevi'im. The rewards mentioned in the Nevi'im, which are so great and miraculous, are all about the Balei Tshuva. But the Tzaddik Gamor, we can't even explain it. And this argues with Rabbi Abahu's statement. In the place where Balei Tshuva stand, tzaddikim einan omdim sham. The tzaddikim cannot stand there. Shneimar, because it says shalom, shalom chok v'karov. It says Hashem says peace, men peace, right hello to the far and to the near. B'rishad rachok v'hadad karov. First he says hi to the far and then hi to the near. My rachok, the guy was far away first. He was doing avirot, and then he came back. I said shalom to him first because Hashem loves him more because he stands in a place that the tzaddikim cannot stand. Umay karov. And what's karov? Karov de mikara udashta. Karov is someone who has always been close to Hashem. So Hashem says hello to him second because Hashem says in the place where Balei Tshuva stand, tzaddikim cannot stand. Rabbi Yochanan, what about him? He says that tzaddikim are greater. So how does he understand this pasuk? L'rachok karov. L'rachok shahu rachok ma'avedah. When it says Hashem says hello to the one who's far, it means far from the avirah, not far from Hashem, far from the avirah. He's always been far from the avirah. Karov. Who is a karov? Shehu karov ma'avirah v'dachek mimena. This is a guy who got close to the avirah and then went away from it. That's the guy who's karov. And Hashem says to him, hello second. So it's a mahloket Rabbi Abahu and Rabbi Yohanan. Who is greater, tzaddikim or tzaddikim moim or Balei Tshuva? Just to mention, in the Tomer Devora, we were learning Tomer Devora over the Chagim of Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot. So in the Tomer Devora, he goes in to explain what this means. Tzaddikim gemurim, or at the Balei Tshuva, the Balei Tshuva omdim sham, tzaddikim ein omdim sham. Tzaddikim cannot stand there, and the way he explains it is that he says that we know the Midrash tells us behei bara, which means that Hashem created the world with the letters Hey and Yud, and He created this world with the letter Hey. He explains that all the people are standing in the Hey, and on the bottom of the Hey there's a big hole because it's very easy to fall out of this world by doing avirot. It's a big hole. So anyone who falls out, if they want to now do tshuva, says the Ramak, he has to come back in, but not through the bottom. He has to come back in through the side of the hay, the small little place. And he has to stay up there in the topper part of the hay, where the regular tzaddikim are on the bottom part of the hay. So he says, the Balei Tshuva, Malko Balei Tshuva Omdin, Ein Tzaddikim Omdim Sham. That's what it means, because they're coming back in through the top, not through the bottom. Why can they come back to the bottom? Because they have to stay very far from the Avirah. If they're going to be back on the bottom, they're going to fall out again very easily. So they have to stand all the way on the top. And that's what it means. So they came Enan Omdin Cham. That is from the Ramak. Okay. כל הנביאים כולן לא נתנבאו אלא מעשי ביתו לתלמיד חכם. All the rewards are talking in the prophecies is all about a person who marries his daughter to a Talmid Chacham. Talmid Chacham means someone whose inside is like his outside. I mean, he is a refined scholar in and out. If Hasu Shalom, he's just learning Torah and he's not refining his character, then there is no mitzvah to marry a person's daughter to this man. It has to be someone who is the what we like to call full package. Or he does business on behalf of the Torah scholar. He invests for him. He's in business with him. He gives him money. And he benefits the Torah scholar from his possessions. All right? That is what the Torah is talking about. But the Talmidei Chachamim themselves, the reward of the Torah scholars themselves, no eye except yours, O God, has seen. My ayin lo ra'ata. What does it mean? No eye of Hashem, no eye except Hashem saw. This is the wine that's inside the grape since the 6 days of creation. Nothing gladdens a person's heart, note 39, in this world more than wine does. To convey that no human being has ever perceived it, just as no one has touched the wine that is still within the grapes. And they want to say, that wine preserved in the grape is a metaphor for a secret Torah wisdom which has not been made known to man. This wisdom will be revealed to the righteous in Olam Haba. Okay? Resh Lakish Amar, you want to know something what no one saw? Ze Eden. This is a place called Eden. Lo rata ayin me'olam. No one ever saw this. V'im Tomer, if you say Adam Hechandar, where did Adam Rishon live? I'll tell you, he lived Gan. He lived in the Gan. V'im Tomer Gan hu Eden. If you say Gan is Eden, no, it's not. Tamad Lomar v'nahar yotzeh me'Eden lehashkot et Hagan. The river issues from Eden and to water the garden. So the garden of Eden and Eden are two different places, and Eden is the world to come. Okay, so there's Gan Eden, and then there's Eden, and Eden no one saw, and that's where Olam Haba is. That's where all the reward that person, the Talmid Chacham, and the Balei Tshuva or the Tzaddik Amurim, that's where they get their full reward. Okay, at this point, we have now finished discussing the Mashiach period, and we are going back into the Mishnah that said these are the people that don't have. These are the people that don't have Olam Haba. VeHaOmer, who was one of them? Ein Torah min Hashemayim. Someone who says Torah is not from Shemayim. Tanu Rabbanan. Ki davar Hashem baza ve'et mitzvato hefa hikaret tikaret. Okay, it says in the pasuk, for he despised the word of Hashem and has violated his commandment, that soul shall be utterly cut off. Who is this? What is this pasuk talking about? Zeha Omer Ein Torah min Hashemayim. This is someone who says Chas Shalom that the Torah is not from Hashem. Davar acher ki davar Hashem baza ze apikoros. This is someone who's apikoros. Davar acher ki davar Hashem baza ze megaleh panim b'Torah. This is someone acts chutzpah against the Torah. He goes against the halakha. Ve'et mitzatov hefar. What does it mean? Ve'et mitzatov hefar ze hamefe'er brit basar. This is someone who violates the commandment of Brit Milah. Okay? He violates the commandment of Brit Milah. We'll take a look at what this means in a minute. Let's just read a little further. Hikaret tikaret. Hikaret ba'olam hazeh. Tikaret olam haba. Someone who does this, someone who is doing any of these things, he's afer his Brit, he says Torah Zman Shamayim, he's an apikoros, he goes against the halacha. All these people, they're cut off from this world and cut off from the next words. Mikan Amar Rabbi Elazar Moda'i, Hamchalet HaKadoshim, someone who desecrates the korbanot, the mazeh et hamu'adot, or someone who disgraces the festivals, right? Rashi says he means he doesn't treat halamoid correctly. He goes to work when he doesn't have to. He just acts like any other day. He does work that he's not allowed to do on halamoid. He's doing things that he's not supposed to. He's mevazeh. He doesn't have olam haba. Ram want to say the guy doesn't treat Yom Tov correctly. He's not preparing food for Yom Tov. Or Has Shalom, he says, "Oh, Yom Tov is only 1 day; it's not 2 days," and he goes to work on the second day. He's mevazeh et hamu'adot. He is embarrassing the Yom Tov. But my favorite Tosha Avraham Avinu, someone who violates the Brit of Avraham Avinu. All right, he needs to do the Brit either on his son he's not doing it, or he needs to do a Brit for himself and he's not doing it. Or even worse, the Yerushalmi says, is that a guy who has a Brit, and like they did during the time of the Hanukkah story, the Hellenists, they tried to make their Brits look like the foreskin was still there. They were pulling on the skin around it to make it look like the skin was still there in order to look like the Goyim, because the Goyim were in the sport zals, they were in the gymnasiums, and they were doing all sorts of sports, and they did it pretty much without clothes on, and the men were there, and they were getting embarrassed that they have brit, so they try to make it look like they don't have a brit. And this people who do such a thing also does not get in chelik olam haba. If someone goes against the Torah shlo k'halacha, right? Also in lo chelik olam haba. Or someone who embarrasses his friend in the public. Apapi. Sheesh beyadot Torah. Even if this guy has in his hands Torah, meaning he learns Torah, he knows Torah, and lo chelik olam haba. He has no chelik in olam haba. Take a look at note 55, the Rambam. Certain sins, the sages have said, the person that accustomed to committing them loses the share in olam haba. They include one who humiliates his friend, one who disgraces the festivals, one who profanes sacred things. If he dies without repenting, however, if he does repent his evil deed and dies a Bali Tshuva, he is one of those who will enter the world to come. But nothing can stand in the power of Teshuvah. So that's a halacha brought down in the Rambam. Tana Yidach, Ki Davar Hashem Bazah, Zeh HaOmer, Ein Torah Min HaShemayim. Someone who says the Torah is not from heaven. Now, listen to this. The guy said everything's from the Torah except for this last pasuk, or this whatever, this pasuk, that pasuk, or this halakha, this mitzvah. That one Moshe made up himself, right? Even if he does that, Zehu ki devar Hashem bazar. He is despising the word of Hashem. So, like many people today, they say they were called Bible critics. The Torah was written by this guy and that guy, and this guy and that guy, and it has nothing to do with God, right? Or there was Moshe and there was someone else, and so that. All these things, a person ki devar Hashem bazar is ein lo chelik olam haba. Va'afilu amar kol Torah kula min hashamayim. He says all the Torah is min hashamayim. Chutz midikduk zeh. Except for this one diktuk, one letter, or this one thing, or this one stuff. Even such, Mikal Homer, he says that the rabbi learned the Kal Homer, that's not min hashamayim. Or he says Migzera Shavah. Zu, the certain Migzera Shavah that they're learning, the 13 principles of how to learn the Torah. He says, oh, that's not true. Zehu ki devar Hashem bazah. This is, they embarrass the word of Hashem, despise the word of Hashem, and ein lahem chelik olam haba. Just make it known, there is a group out there, they call themselves Open Orthodoxy. And they consider themselves Orthodox, they're absolutely not. And they don't keep all the Mitzvot. And one of the things they do, they officiate on abominable type of weddings, right? And when asked about it, they say, listen, we keep the other 612, right? So one mitzvah they don't do. Okay, they advance. They don't do that one mitzvah. They keep 612. Well, here is the Gemara straight up that tells us that what even if one mitzvah you don't do, if you say this one mitzvah is not from Hashem, you say this one pasuk is not from the Torah, you're taking it out. He said, take it out. He says, no, not this one. It is Kitav Hashem Bazah. I'll end off with a question, and maybe next time we can get into somewhat of an answer. The question is, we're saying over here, person cannot say that. Okay, we read it. Filko Amar Tarakar Kula, Amin Hashemayim Chutzi Pasuk Zeh, right? Shlo Amar Hakadosh Baruch Hu El Moshe Pi Atzma. Moshe said it himself. Zehu Kidavar Hashem Baza. Only Moshe said himself. So then you're saying that it is that is considered a precursion, right? In So here's the question: we are told that Sefer Devarim, right? Sefer Devarim is what's called Mishnah Torah. It's Moshe's repetition of the Torah. So so what does that mean? So he's saying it's not from Hashem, it's from Moshe. But he just told me if I say that, Kidav Hashem Bazah. So what does that mean? That Sefer Devarim is a Moshe Atzmo. That's what we're saying. Moshe is saying it on his own, right? And there are many rayot. For example, they say that in Bechukotai Hashem uses like 48 curses, and then and when Moshe Rabbeinu says the curses in Kitavo, he doubles it, right? And why? Because Moshe is saying it on his own, right? So there's many proofs to say that Moshe Rabbeinu, if I recall correctly, a get is written on 12 lines, and the Gemara and Tosfot says in Maseches Gittin, because we use the 4-line separation between each of the parashiyot, between Bereshit and Shemot, in Shemot Vayikra and Bamidbar. So that's 3 times 4 is 12. Why not Devarim? He says, Devarim is Mishnah Torah. So I don't understand. Is it part of the Torah or not? If I'm missing a letter in Sefer Devarim, is the Torah valid? No. It has to be there. So then you're telling me it's not counted for certain things. And it's Moshe on his own. So is it not? You cannot be saying that, because then you're saying Kidavar Hashem Bazah. So there are answers. That Barbanel gives an answer. The Milagaon, the Talmidim Milagaon bring an answer from him. So Hashem, next week, hopefully we remember, and we'll get into that answer next time as we continue in the Gemara from this point. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.